Like, he texted me things like, well, you know, you can't fix stupid. Sorry, that doesn't work with me. Yeah, you're stupid because you're not thinking about the bigger picture. You're not thinking about maybe we did something wrong. Maybe we're not perfect. You know, it's like a relationship. You got dumped. America dumped you, and they're all like, you don't know what you had.
Bill Maher has proven to be one of the few Democrats that understand the big picture by calling out the BS of the media. Why has Bill Maher and Fareed Zakaria suddenly changed their narrative?
I read that the current mayor of Chicago has an approval rating of 6.6%.
Round it up, 7.
But I mean, you were just the ambassador to Japan. If that was your approval rating in Japan, they would do harakiri on live TV.
They would do it at 27.
I mean, what's going on in Chicago?
So now they notice? It's actually sickening to hear them laughing it up about how their party's policies have damaged cities, schools, and our kids. Ugh. Ari's bathroom joke? Gross.
Look, I mean, we were talking about this a little earlier. I mean, you have also the mayor of New York not doing well. Obviously, other things also here in Los Angeles not doing well, the mayor here. Look, and then you got mayors, like the mayor of San Francisco and other cities that are doing well. So I would say, look.
Not funny. Girls/women have been taken advantage of due to Dems' insistence on allowing males in women's spaces.
There is a general rule. I had this when I was mayor. Safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. Focus on those 3 things and your city's gonna be fine. We've gone through 5 years where people became way too permissive of the culture. They were all, which is why everything's locked up at Walgreens and CVS, and that is a disaster.
Yeah.
Imagine how bad things are that Rahm Emanuel has become the voice of reason.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about our schools. I don't want to hear another word about the locker room. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom. You better start focusing on the classroom. I agree. We have the worst reading scores for 8th graders in 30 years.
He was an apologist for Barack Hussein Obama, and he had some of the same principles and theories of how to run a major city. He was the foundation for what Chicago is now. Yet now he has seen the light.
And nobody, not a governor, not a mayor, not a president, not a secretary of education is talking about it. We're all wrapped up. Look, in 7th grade, if I known that I could have said the word they and got in the girls' bathroom, I would have done it. We literally are a superpower. We're facing off against China with one.
Hypocrisy, double standards, and ignorance. Democrat cities have the highest crime rates. I wonder why. And this took them how long to figure it out?
1.4 billion people, and 2/3 of our children can't read 8th grade level. So no more about the lot. Wait a second, I'm on a roll for a second.
Yeah.
No more. I don't want to hear.
I gave him the light. But
I don't want to hear another word about the classroom. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom until you tell me what you're going to do with the classroom.
Makes you wonder why they don't just go Republican and focus on lifting their cities up instead of worrying about bathrooms and locker rooms.
High taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing. Let me finish. I give you a chance. Cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago. If you look at Democratic states, you go look at New York versus Florida. Okay, roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that.
They probably need to make people feel like victims who need them and then give them just enough to get by. It's worked very well, but eventually people who can still think get fed up.
Of Florida. What do they have? With streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the Democratic Party. Lots of taxes, lots of regulation, but nothing gets done.
Hey, and I live in L.A.
Right. And I think
that's why Houston is a cesspool. So many communities voting Democrat, still living in the slums, still having high unemployment rates, high crime rates, shit schools, and yet they keep thinking one day their precious elected officials are going to come save them.
I think, listen, the Democrats have to own this and realize the answer to everything is not more taxes, more regulation. People are fed up of that, and they feel that it isn't working.
Fareed has put his finger on it, but this is coming decades after Democrats refused to change their burdensome tax and regulation policies. In fact, with their climate craziness, they're just getting worse.
Question, what do you do when people like a party and elect it, because they can't. He talked about. I never.
They're going to be in the book to stop.
Wait a second. I'd heard this. I'd not heard the story. He cited this. He said Romania canceled an election recently. Apparently there was Russian interference. I think there's going to be foreign interference in every election from now on for the rest of our lives.
It makes zero sense for working class people to vote Democrat. It is actually hilarious that they think they discovered something new.
And somebody from the European Union said, well, we might have to do that in Germany too. What do you do when the people get it wrong? Because sometimes they do. I remember in Algeria in the 90s, they had an election and the people got it wrong and they elected, the Islamists. And after the the Arab Spring in 2011.
The fact is that they knew this before too. They just didn't want to speak up while it would have been too unprofitable to them. It's embarrassing when older Democrats have to tell the younger ones how badly they have dropped the ball on governing.
Egypt voted, and they voted for the wrong people, the Muslim Brotherhood. Sometimes they do get it wrong. What do you do when the people do that? When the people want the wrong party? Do you cancel elections? Because that doesn't seem like the right thing either.
So, many years ago, I coined this phrase, illiberal democracy, meaning when a majority of people vote for a party that then systematically gets rid of freedom of the press, gets rid of independent judiciary. You do, and it's a danger. It's a really dark place because, and it's not just a theory. This is what Viktor Orban does. In fact, Viktor Orban cites my illiberal democracy article and says that is what we want to be. We don't.
The more progressive we've gotten, the worse our cities have gotten. Progressives have destroyed America and they want to keep going. Insanity.
We don't like liberal democracy. We like illiberal democracy.
So you're to blame.
Erdogan in Turkey does this. His independent courts are much less independent. So some people would, look at some of the things Trump is doing here and wonder whether that's the direction we're headed to.
How convenient they waited for absolute failures of their policies and governments to say this.
You're right. The answer is not to annul the election. The election was annulled because there was fairly good evidence of massive Russian interference. And it is ironic, as Ram was saying, this is the vice president who said that he would have annulled the election of 2020.
The worst possible messenger for this message.
He was the former mayor of Chicago, so he contributed to the failed policies. He's not getting off that easy.
I'm saying
they have no sense of cognitive.
No elections. Do it the way we did it, with a good riot.
Right.
That's what you can do.
They have no sense of cognitive dissonance. It's amazing. Quickly.
I'll be quick. One, you have to use it. First of all, they're going to be in the government, and they're going to be exposed. And you have to expose what they're trying to do. And the Germans just had an election, which is slightly different than what the Romanians did. But I don't think the President of the United States, or the Vice President of the United States, should be in there saying, this is your crisis, when you have the Russian bear, which they all have history with, literally standing over there and starting a war on a sovereign nation that's in violation of the UN Charter.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Finally, some Democrats are waking up to reality that their policies are destroying our cities. It's about time they acknowledge the chaos they have created. Maybe now they will work with Republicans to find real solutions. Trump was right all along. We need law and order in this country. They helped promote those policies. It's not that tough because the math don't lie. It's amazing how these supposedly erudite people come to the most basic understandings everyone else with a functioning brain did 10+ years ago, and then pat themselves on the back for their grand epiphany. It's even more amusing listening to Rahm Emanuel preach safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. When he was mayor of Chicago, he achieved none of that. King Rahm was the worst mayor of Chicago in history. Until Larry Lightfoot and Chicago's mayor BLM. These men are only changing a verbal tune because what they have been selling isn't being bought anymore. They have no intention of ever changing. Maybe the cost of living in Democratic cities is so high because of all the Democratic consultants raking in mounds of billions as consultants. As DOJ stops the gravy train, maybe many of these people will leave and housing will become more available. Every Democrat needs to reconcile this conversation with why they continue to vote the way they do. Do they ever listen to themselves? They really don't understand the importance of the Second Amendment. It's like the final form of democracy. If the people vote themselves into a corner, then, in the worst case, they still never give up the power to change it. They are saying the quiet part out loud. Dems or leftists are all about power, period. All the empathy and tolerance is all a ruse to stay in power. They wanted to decide what should be considered free speech, and now they want to decide who the president should be. These people don't support democracy if they don't support the will of the people. Shame on them. Well, legacy media is paid and bought for. They are not press. That is why elections have consequences. It's Republicans' turn. And so the Democrats should sit down